Well, we're glad that you joined us here on Open Line. Chuck Long here with attorney Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm. I tell you, we've had some great questions, great comments throughout the first half hour. We're going to get some, I'm sure, some great comments and questions in the second one. We are going right back to the phones. We appreciate your patience. Angela is on the line with us. Angela, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes, Mr. Kevin. How are you doing tonight?
Great, Angela. Good to talk to you.
I have a question about a duplex. My brother and sister inherited the duplex. Well, she's kind of like under the care of a physician right now, and he took her during the COVID to a bank and made her sign her half of the duplex over to him, and so he can move in another relative. And now she's stuck with the part that he lived in, broken down, falling apart, but he fixed up her side, but ran her out totally from where she was living. But now the people that's moved in will not even let her sleep at night. They bring in relatives or under relatives, and there's just like a wall in between. So I'd like to know what she can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry to hear about that. It always breaks our heart when we have lawsuits and problems, when it's family members. It'll make your grandfather and grandmother roll over in their grave. Well, if there was some fraud or underhanded, undue influence, she could still get a lawyer and move to set that deed aside, or whatever agreement they did if she was under medication or under a doctor's care. That's one avenue of consideration. And she needs to talk to a lawyer privately. The law will not, public policy will not allow people to take advantage of people who are not competent. And you know, that's why when we're doing a power of attorney and doing a will and doing a deed, there's a notary. And I've heard some lawyers say, well, I just signed that in my notary capacity. I didn't sign that in my lawyer capacity. I heard the argument. And the chancellor told him, says, as lawyers, there's never that. You're always to look out, is this legal? Is it ethical? Is it the right thing to do? So again, what is your sense of justice? If someone's being taken advantage of, there is a way, even through an equity argument, to change it.
All right, thank you so much for calling in, Angela. Great question there. Kevin, before we get to this next question, we also just wanted to do a follow-up on one of the ones that we had in the last half hour. You know, we were talking about as far as you can videotape with your phone.
Yep.
Can you videotape if you're in an accident and the police are coming up? Are you able to take your phone out and video, and do you have to ask for permission?
No, you don't. You can do that. Now, you don't want to escalate agitation, because you can almost anticipate when you put your phone right there on the officers, it could have one or two effects. He could back off and say, oh, what do I have? Or he could get real aggressive, and here we go. Now, remember, they have every kind of camera, every kind of microphone going. They have access to all that, but we don't as private citizens. We're not equipped. So they've got an unfair advantage, and they are trained to the max. What would a reasonable person do under the circumstances? And if it dictated that you do it, then you do it. You kind of have to go with your gut feeling sometimes. This is not right. I see it's getting out of hand. And quite frankly, I've been shocked. I've been pulled over. And so I try to handle it as delicately as we can to try to avoid an arrest. I don't want to be on the front page tomorrow and they said, this lawyer, he was a real good lawyer, got himself arrested.
There you go.
And then, you know, half the people said, I knew Kevin wasn't right. And they said, we'll see how good he is. So I'm doing really good to keep Chuck out, though. Don't worry about that.
That's why I take notes every show.
I got him covered.
Absolutely. All right, let's go right back to the lines now. Jeff is on the line with us. Jeff, we're glad that you're watching this evening. Do you have a question for Kevin? Can you hear us, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead with your question.
All right. First of all, I want to thank you all for taking my question. My question is for Mr. Kennedy tonight. I was involved in a head-on car wreck 2 years ago, and the people that hit me head-on have the same insurance company that I do.
Yep. Well, and that's okay. You can still, both could be insured.
No, the question I've asked, the man that hit me we are just now finding my lawyer just had to send a private investigator to get him.
Okay.
To serve the papers on him. Now, I don't know how much insurance he has or anything like that, but everything has come off my policy, and I've been in the hospital 7 times. Wow. And I've had to file for disability. Okay, now, what his policy, or the highest one, it's what I want to know is, can I go beyond my policy limit as far as making somebody pay for this?
Yeah, well, what you can do usually, if someone had a $50,000 policy and they really had a home paid for, oh yes, all of your assets are in play. So they could have, because you chose to have a $50,000 limit and you chose to have a home paid for, well, you're playing Russian roulette. So you're constantly evaluating to protect, and you should ask these questions with your insurance. Do I have enough insurance? We talk about that. What is enough? And there's no magic formula. You just talk to many people who are involved in that industry and do the best that you can. And so, yes, you can always go and you could say, but they won't give you their policy limits unless they get a release. But sometimes they say, look, we're going to release you, but we will not release the driver. They can say, we're out. We don't want to spend any more money. So we paid that. You're on your own for the rest. So you can pursue that. But again, what we're worried about, if they file bankruptcy, you come up with nothing.
Good to know. Jeff, thanks so much for calling in. We're going right back to the lines right now. Bob is on the phone with us. Bob, we're glad that you have called in. Do you have a question for Kevin?
Yes, I have a question. What rights does a Tennessee person have if he's being asked to go to another state for a preliminary hearing, if he's being subpoenaed?
Okay, that's a great question. A lot of people say that they do not have jurisdiction to come in and serve you with a subpoena for Alaska. So it's a good question. You hire a lawyer. That lawyer could always file a petition and say, hey, I want that subpoena quashed. It's unreasonable. And as a general rule, you're not going to be able to subpoena people across state lines.
All right, great question, Bob. We're glad that you called in. You know, Kevin, a lot of times people, we've talked about when do you hire a lawyer, when do you need a lawyer. One of the top reasons is because of all these things you've been talking about this evening. The law is really complicated. There's so many things. Yeah, the general layperson, again, like myself, they don't know these details.
At the law school, they said, you know, God takes care of little children and young lawyers. What did he really mean? That's an old saying, because children can go to a hayride and they ride the hay and it's fun and laughter. And then when you become a lawyer, you know, you can get sued for this. The person driving didn't have a driver's license. There's a person here at the party that's not right. Well, then once you know everything, then you can't enjoy quite. So what is better? To be ignorant? No, because that old saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And we hear lawyers, I didn't know that was a law. That's why many times we understand the theory. So through this TV broadcast, if it's going against public policy, what does that mean? If it goes against your sense of justice, if there's lying or deception, there is a law against it. If it's fraud, there's law against it. And so lies never. One thing we can all stand on, they say the truth will set you free. That comes out of the Bible. The truth, every man seeks the truth. The judge, and they do not like elusive responses. And lawyers are the masters of taking something complicated, make it simple. We take something simple and make it complicated. And they say, why do you do that, Kevin? Why do you do? Because it's really in our client's best interest. And so we are hired, uphold the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution. We swear to it. We're officers of the court all the time. So with that, we're doing our very best within the bounds of the law. We're not going to cheat. We're not going to lie. We're not going to use perjured testimony. No, we won't do that. But we're going to do our best to protect Chuck. and a skilled lawyer, experienced lawyer, he's got a better edge.
Yeah, experience stands for so much. Again, 37 years experience with the Kennedy Law Firm. All right, we are going to take a short break, but if you do have one of those legal questions you've been wondering about, whether or not it's for you, whether or not it's for a family member, a friend, go ahead, give us a call at 737-7587, and we'll continue with Open Line right after this.